At dawn, when mist clung to the hedges like a whispered promise, Thornfield Manor stirred to life. Bells chimed softly, and servants crossed stone paths with lowered voices, as if afraid to disturb the air itself. Lady Hawise watched from a narrow window, her breath fogging the glass. She was heir to Thornfield, bound by duty, trained to smile with grace, and taught to hide longing behind calm eyes. Yet her heart listened for wings. Each morning, a falcon cut the sky above the fields, swift and sure, and each morning, Hawise felt her pulse answer that flight. Records suggest that noble women found comfort in symbols, flowers, songs, or birds, and Hawise chose the falcon, fierce and faithful. Below, the manor's falconer approached the mews, carrying leather gloves and quiet confidence. He moved with care, as though the ground respected him. Few knew his name beyond the work he did, and fewer still guessed the story he carried. When the falcon returned to his arm, the bird bowed its head, and the falconer smiled with restrained warmth. From the window, Hawise felt seen without being known. In that simple exchange, sky to hand, heart to wing, the day's first secret took shape, delicate as frost, enduring as stone. The falconer's name was called only when needed, yet his presence lingered long after he passed. He spoke little, but when he did, his words were chosen with care, shaped by patience. According to historical sources, falconry demanded trust between human and bird, a language of gestures and silence. Hawise watched him teach that language each day, and she learned by listening. He showed the falcon the open sky and promised its return. He showed Hawise restraint and offered her hope. Their conversations began with formal greetings, measured and proper. Over time, they became moments brief, sincere, and quietly alive. He spoke of wind patterns and seasons, of how a bird remembers kindness. She spoke of gardens and letters, of how walls can listen. Sometimes, he would meet her gaze and look away first, as if courtesy required surrender. Sometimes, she would laugh softly and feel the world widen. What Hawise did not know was that the falconer carried another name, one he had learned to protect by forgetting it aloud. Records suggest princes were hidden in plain sight during times of fragile peace, trained to wait, to watch, to endure. He had been taught to rule by serving, to learn people before power. In Thornfield, among wings and vows, his lessons deepened, and his heart found its test. Spring came with rain, and the fields drank deeply. Hawise walked the outer paths with her ladies, yet her steps always curved toward the mews. The falconer stood there as if summoned by weather itself, his cloak darkened by mist. He offered a glove, and Hawise accepted, feeling the weight of the bird settle upon her arm. It was not fear she felt, but balance. The falcon's eyes were bright, alert, and calm. The falconer guided her hand with a careful distance, teaching without touch. Historians believe such instruction was rare, yet Thornfield allowed it, perhaps sensing the care that governed it. When the falcon lifted, Hawise's arm felt light, as if something within her had learned to trust the open air. The falconer watched her with a quiet pride that surprised them both. In that moment, the world reduced itself to essentials: breath, wingbeat, promise. Rain softened to a hush. Hawise realized she did not wish to own the sky. She wished to share it. The falcon returned, obedient and free, and the falconer nodded, acknowledging her courage. Neither spoke. Love, when it begins, often does so without a name, wearing patience like a crown. Summer brought guests to Thornfield and rumors with them. Matches were discussed in low rooms with bright tapestries. Futures weighed like silver. Hawise listened politely, her thoughts elsewhere. Each evening, she returned to the mews, seeking the steadiness she trusted. The falconer sensed the change before she spoke. He asked only if the birds were flying well. She answered yes, and more. She spoke of choice, of how duty can be generous when guided by truth. He listened as one trained to hear between words. According to records, noble duty often demanded silence, yet silence can also shelter resolve. That night, beneath lantern light, the falconer revealed a fragment of himself, not his title, not his claim, but his vow. He had sworn to wait until he could stand openly, without shadows. Hawise understood the courage in waiting. She offered no demands, only constancy. The falcon cried once, sharp and clear, as if marking the hour. In that sound, they recognized the shape of what they shared. Loyalty tested by time, love measured by restraint. Thornfield slept, unaware that two lives were aligning, guided not by command, but by chosen care. Autumn arrived quietly, painting Thornfield in amber and rust. Leaves turned like pages, each one a memory loosening its hold. Lady Hawise felt the season within herself, a readiness shaped by months of patience. The falconer noticed it too. He trained the birds earlier now, before frost could bite, and Hawise joined him when she could. Their walks were measured, respectful, yet filled with an unspoken understanding. According to historical records, autumn was a time of accounting, when estates prepared for winter and truths came closer to the surface. One morning, as fog lifted slowly from the fields, the falconer spoke of roads beyond Thornfield. He described courts he had seen from a distance, banners he knew by heart, and laws that shaped lives far from these quiet hedges. Hawise listened, sensing weight behind his calm tone. She did not press him. Love, she had learned, grows safest when not forced into light. Instead, she shared her own fears of being chosen for rather than choosing, of being praised, yet never known. The falcon circled above them, steady and sure. When it returned, Hawise realized something had changed. The distance between them felt purposeful, not empty. It was the space a truth needs before it can land. Winter came early, sealing Thornfield in silence. Snow softened edges, and the manor breathed slower, as if listening inward. Fires burned low, and stories replaced songs. Hawise spent more time indoors, writing letters she never sent. The falconer trained less, protecting the birds from cold skies, yet he visited the muse daily, faithful as ritual. One evening, he asked for a moment. They stood beneath bare branches, breath visible in the pale air. According to historians, winter confessions carried special weight, spoken when the world itself felt stripped of illusion. He told her then not everything, but enough. He spoke of bloodlines and burdens, of a crown delayed by unrest, of a name that could not yet be spoken aloud. Hawise felt no shock, only clarity. The man she knew had always moved with purpose, had always listened like one trained to rule by understanding. She did not kneel, did not praise. She simply said she had seen him clearly already. Snow fell, quiet and complete. In that moment, they chose honesty without urgency. Love did not demand action. It demanded alignment. The falconer bowed his head, not as subject to lady, but as equal to equal. Winter accepted their vow. When spring returned, it did so with resolve. Buds broke open, and Thornfield stirred with new plans. Messengers arrived, bearing sealed letters and careful urgency. The falconer prepared to leave, summoned by matters long postponed. Hawise walked with him one final time before departure. They spoke of time as something shaped, not lost. Records suggest separations were common in noble lives, yet not all were empty. He promised to return when he could stand fully revealed. She promised to hold Thornfield steady, not as waiting prize, but as chosen partner. At the Mews, the falcon lifted into bright air, higher than before, its cry ringing clear. Hawise felt pride, not sorrow. She had learned the strength of shared purpose. The falconer took one last look at Thornfield, then at Hawise, and left without spectacle. Days passed, then weeks. Hawise governed with calm authority, listening more than she spoke. The estate flourished under her care. She felt him in the work, in the measured decisions, in the patience she now carried with ease. Love, she learned, does not pause life. It refines it. Spring unfolded, and Thornfield stood ready, not for return alone, but for recognition. The return came not with trumpets, but with clarity. Summer light filled the courtyard as riders entered, banners unfurled with quiet confidence. At their center stood the falconer, no longer hidden, yet unchanged in bearing. He spoke his true name before the gathered household, claiming both his past and his future. According to historical accounts, rightful rule often depended as much on trust as lineage. Thornfield answered him with respect earned, not demanded. Hawise stepped forward, her presence steady, her choice visible. There was no grand declaration. Their bond needed no performance. The falcon was released, rising above them all, circling once as if blessing the ground below. In that shared silence, the people understood. This was not a union of ambition, but of alignment. Hawise did not surrender her voice. She expanded it. He did not claim her estate. He honored it. Together, they shaped a promise built on patience, loyalty, and seeing clearly. As evening fell, lanterns glowed softly, and Thornfield breathed in relief. Love had arrived not as storm, but as season earned, enduring, and free. In the weeks that followed, Thornfield learned a new rhythm. The prince did not rush to change what already worked. He listened first, walking the fields, speaking with stewards, greeting villagers by name. Historians believe such gestures built legitimacy more strongly than ceremony. Hawise stood beside him, not behind, her knowledge of the land guiding every decision. Together, they ruled as learners, not conquerors. At dawn, the falcon still flew. It became a symbol not of ownership, but of balanced freedom returning by choice. Hawise often watched from the same window where her story had quietly begun. She saw how far patience could carry a heart. Letters arrived from distant courts, offering alliances and praise. Yet Thornfield remained their center. The prince trained the falcon with the same care he gave the people, reminding all that strength without mercy falters. Hawise hosted gatherings where music softened formality and stories replaced suspicion. The manor felt warmer, as if walls remembered kindness. Love did not erase duty. It deepened it. Each shared glance, each measured step, affirmed what they had built. Thornfield no longer waited for the future. It lived within it. Autumn returned, familiar and gentle, bringing harvest and reflection. Hawise walked the fields with the prince, listening to farmers speak of soil and rain. Records suggest rulers who understood the land earned lasting loyalty. He listened closely, committing names to memory. In the evenings, Hawise read aloud by firelight, histories and poems chosen with care. They spoke of the past without fear, honoring what shaped them. The falcon perched nearby, calm and watchful, a witness to continuity. When challenges arose, as they always do, they faced them openly, guided by shared values. Decisions were weighed with patience, not pride. Hawise found joy in being known fully, without performance. The prince found rest in being seen beyond his title. Their love matured, steady and quiet, like roots deepening beneath stone. Thornfield prospered, not through excess, but through trust. Visitors sensed it upon arrival, an ease that cannot be taught. As leaves fell, Hawise realized that longing had transformed into belonging. Love, she learned, is not only fire, it is shelter. Together, they prepared Thornfield for winter, confident in what would endure. Winter returned, yet it felt different now. Snow brightened the paths instead of closing them. The manor gathered close, sharing warmth and work. Hawise and the prince hosted feasts modest in display, rich in gratitude. According to historical sources, communities survived harsh seasons through unity more than abundance. Thornfield proved the truth of it. The falcon rested through the coldest days, cared for with patience, its strength preserved. Hawise spent mornings reviewing accounts, afternoons walking the halls, evenings in thoughtful conversation. The prince spoke of future reforms, shaped by what he had learned here. They disagreed at times, gently and honestly, trusting respect to guide resolution. Love, they discovered, grows through listening as much as through affection. When storms came, they watched together, finding comfort in shared silence. The world beyond Thornfield felt distant, yet not forgotten. They were preparing, not hiding. Winter nights passed with steady purpose, and hope stayed lit like a well-tended flame. In choosing each other, they had chosen a way of being patient, principled, and kind. Thornfield stood strong, warmed by more than fire. When spring arrived once more, it brought renewal without surprise. Blossom followed bud, as expected, as earned. Hawise stood in the courtyard beside the prince, greeting the season with quiet joy. The falcon rose into clear air, confident and free. According to historians, the truest legacies are shaped not by conquest, but by care. Thornfield reflected that truth in every stone and smile. Hawise had learned to trust her voice, and the prince had learned to honor it. Their love did not end the story, it sustained it. Together, They embodied a promise made slowly and kept faithfully. As sunlight warmed the land, Hawise felt gratitude for patience, for seasons that teach rather than rush. The prince looked toward the horizon, prepared to lead beyond Thornfield when needed, grounded by what they had built. Their bond remained quiet, visible in choices rather than declarations. In time, stories would be told of Thornfield Falcon, of a lady who chose with wisdom, and a prince who learned through service. Yet the truest record lived in the present, a life shaped by loyalty, balance, and love that gave freedom wings.